The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Since no one else has said, I guess I will. Over the past few years, there has been a trend of people at shows, concerts, and festivals jumping onto the stages, attacking the entertainers, grabbing the microphones, and outright making a fool of themselves. And everybody wants to know how and why this keeps happening. Well, I'm glad you asked. The people that these producers, promoters, event organizers, and owners usually hire are the cheapest security that you can find. They are the bottom of the barrel when it comes to security, and oftentimes do not have the training or credentials to do the job. Now I say bottom of the barrel, I'm describing these people in the nicest terms that I possibly can. What we truthfully have are a bunch of goofies who are in the pit, who don't know what they're doing, and oftentimes are just warm bodies to fill a post. When I'm watching a lot of these videos, I see that the security guards are bigger fans of the entertainers than the fans who came to see the show. And I'm watching the security guards taking selfies, videoing the entertainers. I see them dancing and doing everything but their jobs. Hell, I just watched a video last week at a security person in the pit at the Kendrick Lamar show. This mug was in the corner breaking down crying and dancing to the song at the same time. And I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but you can check out the clips of the next few videos for yourself.
Hello, Mr. George. How much you pay for the new guy? 20 bucks? No, too much money. It's no good.
Sentinel mindset.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful, wonderful day. We have a very, very special guest on our show today. Now, this individual, we actually saw a really thought-provoking post that he posted, and it was more a reflection of why there's just so much breakdowns happening from a security perspective for the event industry, or any other industry for that matter that requires a professional security individual. We are here today with Melvin Key, founder of MVP Security. And Melvin, you're based out of Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely, yes. We're in Washington, D.C.
Amazing, amazing. I've never been. I definitely want to go.
Well, come on down. I know we'll have a lot of fun together.
Nice, man, nice. So Melvin, tell me, first of all, tell us about yourself. Tell the world who Melvin Key is.
All right, I'm Melvin Key, the owner of MVP Protective Services. We've been in business almost 20 years now. And we service the sports and entertainment industry, political figures, and corporate executives. So that's our primary focus on high-level security. And then we have security guard forces as well. But prior to being a security person, I was a captain on the D.C. Police Department, and I retired a little bit early, and then I took the money and started my company.
Okay, I see. Now, and when you look to make that transition, Melvin, were you looking at the scenery as a whole and being like, I can make this better?
Oh, absolutely, man. I think everything that I'm going to in life is, how can I make it better? I just saw that there was an opportunity in the security field And then in addition to that, I had the experience to kind of bring over from the government side and then apply that into the industry. And once I got in, we saw the problems there, and then we started to think outside of the current mindset, and which unfortunately still pervades to this day. Some of the problems that I saw then, I still see now.
Okay, I see. Now, what would be some of those problems that you started noticing? And now, was this just in Washington, D.C.? Because what I understand, you also have some other locations across the U.S.
Yes, sir. No, in general across the board, I see the number one thing is leadership, right? And a lot of the people that run companies kind of know how to do a skill set, but don't know how to run a business, and also how to lead and inspire people. So I saw that was absent in there in the big picture, but also that absence of leadership also caused them to overlook training for their guards and the people that they sent out to do the general guard posts at a residential agency, a retail store, shooting a pistol, or in the executive protection industry.
Okay. No, and that will bring us right into that video, Melvin, that you posted, that basically talked about entertainers, artists, production, even staff being attacked during a performance, and a lot of that being triggered to a lack of qualified security personnel. How much of that are you seeing yourself? Like, I know we saw some clips that you posted that are happening across, but how many of them are you seeing yourself, and it just frustrates you because it seems like a lot of the thinking is, let's just get the cheapest option opposed to getting the right option.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, Constantine. That is the case in general. You have event services, large event services companies that can come in and offer low rate, and maybe they have a stadium here, and they have maybe 3 or 4 stadiums where they have maybe 200, 150 to 200 guards, doing these events. And so it's hard to get good qualified staff for that. And so pretty much you just get a little bit of anybody. And so that's what I'm seeing in those arenas. But what I'm noticing also, I see I see some people kind of making light of some of the security guards, some of the things that I see, like the security guards dancing near the stage. I saw one, I'm just going to post it later on, dancing at the stage, having a good time, enjoying life. I get it, and enjoying their job, and then kind of interacting with the people. I kind of get that, but then the stages and the places where these artists, government people, political figures, motivational speakers speak, that has to be a safe place. You can play out there, at the check-in gate or somewhere like that, but in those places the focus needs to be so on there. So I believe that's contributing to the problem, but that also goes back to the leadership that I spoke of, and also the training. So the leadership should put their best people at those stages that would prevent those kind of things from happening.
Okay, no, that's strong, man. To your knowledge, Melvin, just as the landscape as a whole of the U.S. and specifically, the places that you service, when you look at your competition, if you want to call them competition, what is the view on training of the guards? And I'm talking about the right training.
Okay. So the right training is a lot of the training that has to happen for the concert security, the event staff. Number one, like you said, there has to be pay. The promoters and producers can't go shop for the lowest guy, like you said, because actually that's what you're going to get, those kind of things. But repeat that last question for me one more time.
Yeah, it's more or less, it's the standard. Let me give you an example. Here in Canada, or Ontario specifically, our province, the Ministry of Security Services, they have basically stated that in order for anyone to get their security license, they need to do this 40-hour generic course, okay? Mm-hmm. Once they do that course, many people now jump into the industry and are working, and that's it. We look at that as an example as a company, and we're like, what can we do to elevate the individual's experience and training skill set for that environment? we can both agree here, Melvin, because it seems like we both specialize in the events industry as well as a division, that maybe what you do in an event capacity as a guard from roles and responsibilities and skill sets would be very different than if you were guarding a condo, right? And at the end of the day, when you see how the training is, especially in Canada, there really doesn't happen for a good majority of them because it comes down to cost. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. So looking at that, is there something like that you can relate to in the US when it comes to guarding companies and training and putting the right people to deal with the situation?
Absolutely. That's what's happening. The company would have to eat the cost of that training. And if you're a good company like yourself or my company, we're going to eat the cost for me because I can't afford not to do that. But that also drives up we pass that on to the customer. And that's what is not willing to pay for. And the guard standards are, for most of these places, B20, at least some of them 18 years old, B21 years old, don't have a felony record. And you can get a job, and you like 40 hours of online training doesn't cut what we need for these guys to be efficient at their job. And so the other option is to say, okay, which is the only option, is that these guards have to invest in their training on their own. And then I think therein lies the problem. They won't do that either.
No, for sure. And I mean, look, there's a specialty kind of training that guards must 100% look to invest in their own. Example, the executive protection game is an example of that, especially someone who wants those opportunities. And it's not just training one time. You got to continue to pour into your skill set. But for the security industry as a whole, 100%, it's very evident that many companies don't do the training because of the cost. And the problem with that is that it's also an underbidding game. Who can bid the lowest? Well, if you bid so low and you end up paying somebody minimum wage because your billable is so low, where is the training cost? And these are the companies that a lot of times are winning awards to these environments, an event venue, where there's failures happening over and over again. So it's almost a systematic change that needs to happen.
Yeah, that is true. So the low bidding thing, the low bidding thing becomes the standard. And when I first started my company, I didn't know. I went to some people that I thought I looked up to who had security companies, and I said, "Well, what is the going price?" And they may maybe say $18 an hour or whatever it was then at that time, but their $18 an hour was different than my $18 an hour. Maybe because they had 10 or 15 contracts, so they can afford to bid lower because they had 20 guards on their contract, and so they made their money on the volume. But I think a lot of people don't understand that. So when they ask me what should they bid, I got a lot of people, security companies, startup companies, that follow me and they're kind of mentor. They ask me, so what's the going price? I say, okay, first of all, what's your expenses? Then we could talk about what the going price is, because you have insurance, you have workers' comp, you have your office that you have to run for, your secretary, pay for, your secretary, the lights, the computer, all of this stuff. You need to add all of this stuff up, and then add on your taxes and your employee payroll. And then you can say, okay, I probably should be bidding this so I can make 40% or 30%. But a lot of people don't do that. They just go in and figure out what's the bill rate. And if Constantine is saying, okay, it's $20, I'll say $17 an hour. And I did that one time and realized that I was in a contract for 3 years that I was losing money on for 3 years.
I see. Well, Melvin, let me ask you this, man. When you look at the industry as a whole, what do you think needs to change? Like, I mean, if we're going to push out a message right now, many people are listening, both in, we have audiences across the world, but a lot in the US and Canada, North America. What needs to change? What does people mindset need to be to create that positive outcome for both staff and also patrons attending?
Man, honestly, we would probably have to have some type of ongoing dialogue for is number one. We need to stop being realize that we're not all competitors. Most of us are comrades, and that's what we
Right.
should be, right? And once we can get on that same page, then we don't have to have the big companies boxing us out of other things that we could accomplish. I just have a group of guys, and what I'm doing now, I'm traveling across the country. I have a big corporate account that wherever they go, I go handle all of their security. I hire the police, I bring my own staff, and then whatever city it is, we just left Detroit. I hire some contractors there. And what I try to do is find people that seems like they're up and coming, but they're serious about their business. I have a Zoom call with them. We talk a couple of times and say, hey, listen, I want to give you an opportunity to come work with me in an environment that you probably would never get a chance to work with, just so they can see what's possible for them in their business. Because I started this thing with an ironing board, man, and ironing board and a laptop computer that I borrowed from my mother. So I took all the bumps and bruises. I learned a lot from the business. And I feel like we have to pay it forward, but we also have to stick the hand out with the baton to pass it on to the people who are younger than us so that they can be successful in the business. So and I say all that to say, I bring these guys in, but we also allow them to work with me, but we also talk about their business from the start to the bottom and what needs to be done to grow and scale that business. But also understanding that we are comrades. And if you're in Toronto, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. You're in Toronto. So if you're in Toronto and you just so happen to need, 150 guys, that you have 10 brothers that you can call and say, hey, listen, I need 10 guys. We're all on the same page. This is the price that we're going to bill. We can break it down, how are you going to break it down in percentages to do that contract, but that you are able to deliver a great product, right? But then to use that fraternity to set the standard, that we're not going to bid against each other because the big companies. I'm sorry.
Go on. No, go on.
So the big companies just box us out, with low rates, or the promoter producers are able to go find the lowest bidder as usual.
No, listen, 100%. With these other companies, these comrades that we can call them, that we're trying to find ways to work together. Do you find a lot of these companies are like-minded, like yourself? They see things the same way?
No, actually, I don't, man. I hear a lot of complaints, but I don't see a lot of like-minded companies. And I won't say you're what do they say, a unicorn, because I have found a lot of good brothers, but you actually have to go find those guys, and you have to, kind of kick some knowledge to them and hope that the seed that you planted takes root, and that we're able to do that. But I don't see a lot of people who, I say some of the younger companies coming up, some of the younger guys, they understand it, but the bigger guys, you've been in the business for a while, you feel like, hey, I got mine, you got yours, and we had the same common problem, but you figure it out on your own, and I'll figure it out on my own. That has to stop.
Yeah, man. No, yes. 100%. And we're on that same tip as well, searching for that company that is like-minded, with the vision, core values. It's been extremely, extremely difficult, which is why when we hear something like you're saying, for example, it pops at us. It's like, wow, this is different. This is in line. And, my mandate or my mission statement for what we're doing here in Toronto is to help unite the industries. But it's right now in a very present cutthroat state, right? Where everyone is like, it's out for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know. To me, it's a work in progress, and all we can do is to slowly make games of inches. You know what I mean?
Yes. yes. How long have you been in the business now?
So we've been around since 2007, but in 2011, when I came on board, we completely shifted and rebranded the thinking of how security should be. And it really was, look at the present state of the industry, where really anyone can get their license. I mean, literally anybody, as long as you're not a convicted felon. And, no training, no, really almost like you feel like this is my job. It's almost like I'm just doing a job, which brings me to this next thing right now. I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So many people in this industry, the security industry, I'm going to say it, and you're probably going to agree, do not belong in this industry. Okay. How they got in there is probably looking at it as in just, I need some money on the side, or I just want to get a job. And because there really is no like set standard for so many jobs in the private security industry, you end up getting anyone. And I've been exposed to a lot of like brothers and sisters in the US where this whole protector DNA lives from within, and they do it because they genuinely care and want to help others. And that's where I live. Like that's where my whole thing's all about. It's I mean, as much as it's nice to run a business and become a profitable business, the reasons why we do it as an organization is to help other people. That's the foundation. And it was also birthed from a observation that there is a need for this. Like, we desperately need this in Toronto. With that all said, when somebody enters the world of security, in your opinion, Melvin, what should their mindset be walking into that world?
I always look at the great people, the Muhammad Ali's, the LeBron James, the Floyd Mayweathers, the Stephen Curry. So I always look at guys like that. I mean, it could be in any profession, Mark Cuban or whoever. How did they get to where they are? Were they inherently smart, or that somebody just passed them the silver spoon, or were they the most determined people, focused people that you could imagine? And I would venture to say it was the latter. And some of them did have some advantages that we may not have had. However, these guys applied themselves, and some of them had no advantages at all. They come from some of the worst of the worst. So they had a vision for what they wanted. They applied themselves. They weren't afraid to invest in themselves, which we find here, especially in the executive protection industry. I get probably about a couple of hundred direct messages a day. And most of them say, hey, are you hiring? If you need an extra man for a detail, I'm your guy. And then when I go down, one of the very first things I say, what training classes have you taken? What credentials do you have? How long have you been in the industry? But one of the most easiest way to kind of dismiss somebody is ask them for their LinkedIn account. Because that's where the professionals do it at. You build your resume and you connect with people in that form of fashion, and they're more apt to respond to you. But what I find is most of these guys have no certifications. They work in the bar or the nightclub. They're a big guy. They work with a couple of rappers. Maybe they got on some detail as some wing guy. He's no real important part of that detail. But those are the guys who want to work. And I actually had a guy the other night tell me that he didn't need to take a class. And I said, listen, I'm not trying to sell my class to you. Trust me, I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to tell you, you don't get to the level of working with the people that I work with and doing the things that I do without taking those classes. I take a bunch of classes right now. I'm a certified driving instructor, and I just went to another driving class to learn how to drive better. So
you keep elevating. You keep elevating.
Yeah, these guys won't take no classes at all, maybe a firearm class, and they think that's what it takes to do this job, and that's not the case at all.
Yeah, man. Like, it's definitely a growing frustration, and I think it's amazing that you're elevating your game, because one of the next things I want to talk about with you, Melvin, is like what we observe in our circles, and we deal with a lot specifically more from the US and in Canada. It's this 3-letter word, man, and that is ego. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
And it to me, it's what's your thoughts on ego in the industry? Because for us, it's the killer of many.
Yeah, it's the killer. It's the killer of many. You're absolutely right, and I tell people that all the time. It gets you in trouble in so many ways. Starting with, like the guy said, he didn't feel that he needed to take a class and that he could do this job without doing that. And I asked him a question. I said, listen, so you're he worked for an agency. I asked him that. So I said, well, listen, as a security guard, this guy who walks around a retail store, it's kind of the same as, a police, right? He says, well, yeah, I mean, kind of. So I said, all right, tomorrow, if you showed up at roll call and he was your partner, could that happen? And he said, no. I said, why not? He said, because he doesn't have the training and the experience. I said, okay, so what makes you think as a police officer that you can go from that to now becoming an executive protection person? Just like a police officer can't go to wake up just because it's the same as being like military. He can't wake up tomorrow morning and just go and do a assignment with the Navy SEALs, right? So there's levels to everything. And I think the reason, the problem is, it goes back to ego. These guys are so, I know it all. You know, I can do this, I can do that, but it doesn't work like that way. Especially from people coming from law enforcement and military backgrounds. And I was a law enforcement before, so I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just telling you from my experience what I see. The other thing, ego gets in the way in the forms of when you're working. You know, because it's in the executive protection industry, it's about this. It's not about, you know, this. It's not about being able to carry an AR-15 or a sidearm and push people out of your way. It's about thinking your way into, out of trouble before trouble even arrives, and people don't understand that part of it.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, soft skills are the lifeline of your job and doing it well.
Yes, sir.
It's madness. Okay, so we're gonna play a game here right now, Melvin. I'm a client of a massive corporation. I'm looking for a security company right now. What should I be looking for in a good security company?
Oh man, number one, it would be leadership. You know, a lot of people like to put experience. You know, experience is great. Well, my mom and dad have been married over 50 years, and they're not the greatest of friends. You know what I mean? And they live in the same house. You know. So when I say that, that's 51 years experience, but applied experience, you know, leadership skills. That's what I'm looking at. So when I go with people who ask to do affiliate work with me, first thing I do is I go to their website and I go to their About Us page. You know, if it just has a blurb about the company, but nothing about the leadership, I realize that's not a person that I want to do business with. Because a company who had a good leader would want everybody to know that they had a good leadership, because good leadership can increase sales and make people believe in your brand and your product. Right. So that's number one. The next thing I would be doing was looking for what certifications that these companies have. Who are they affiliated with? What associations? Is it ASIS? You know, is it FOP? Who are they affiliated with? And what certifications they have? Because those are the people that separate the pack. And if you have, you know, some of the CPP certifications, the PCI certifications from as is, when the client is looking at one resume versus another, it stands out. And it could have been that price was their contributing factor, but they saw the value in what you brought to the table along with the experience. Now you can say, well, I did this festival and I did this and I had this client, that. Now that actually means something because they see the value in it. And a lot of times where they may have been going on price and they see now your value, your experience, your certifications, your history, your clientele, price doesn't matter to them no more because they're looking for value. A lot of customers. So there are a lot that's not too, but the ones that you want are the ones that's going to pay you. And they not, you know, if you can get more than you're worth is good, but if you can get what you're worth, that's great.
Right. That's good, Melvin. That's amazing, man. Anything else? Any other things that you would tell a prospective client into why they would need to go into a better caliber firm for their situation?
Oh, absolutely. One, because you know the firm has their asset, their name in itself. Whoever they're trying, the company. So let's call it Coca-Cola. They have a brand that's on their reputations and online, and they have number one, their brand is, their brand reputation is important. But then they have the leadership, which is their assets, and we need to be how to protect those assets if these people that we hire don't know how to protect the assets. Man, I think I got lost in the question.
No, that's good, man. Look, at the end of the day, it's great. And the one thing that we can kind of pick here is educating the client. And that's really the only way we're going to be able to kind of start shifting their headspace to be at. One of our directors here, he'll always say this: no one's going to ever complain until something happens. And it's when that thing happens and when suddenly it triggers, oh, we need to make a change right now. You know, it's like, oh man, someone just robbed my house. Why don't you get an alarm? You know what I mean? That's where that kind of comes into play.
hmm what happens is also some of the executives are the hardest ones to convince, right? And so a lot of times when I don't call it, when I have them kind of struggling with what decisions to make, I'll just simply go on Google and find something and say, hey, listen, this is what's happening to the people who are not doing it. And, it's not about money for me. You hired me for your safety. So I'm just recommending that this is some of the things that can make you safe. Maybe it's get a dog. Maybe it's take a concealed carry firearm class. Maybe it's to, have somebody at the post or someone go with you from here or there, pick up the groceries, to pick up the kids, et cetera, et cetera. But like you said, education, because a lot of them do want to be normal, like such in the latest PNB Rock case. Some of these guys just want to be normal and go live a normal life. But once they signed up on that dotted line to do what they do, normalcy went out the door. And if they have worth a lot of money, then they need to be able to, they need to protect that. But then the corporation or the security firm that they hire has to know how to do that, so it doesn't necessarily intrude on the person and their family and their desires, but still maximizes their protection.
No, that's awesome, man. And Melvin, I really want to thank you for sharing that. Again, it's always nice to see other people that have that like-minded element to help make something better for the industry. And that is something that we can call almost a rarity at this point. How do we find you? If somebody right now is listening and they have needs in any of the states that you provide services to, Melvin, how does somebody get a hold of you?
Absolutely. The easiest way to catch me is by my email, and it's mkey, M as in Mary, KEY at Trust in MVP. So mkey at trustinmvp.com.
Okay. Any website or social media handles you want to do a shout out now to anyone listening that they can kind of follow more closely what you do?
Yeah. So my Instagram is security_czar, spelled CZAR. And my website is trustinmvp.com.
Okay, amazing. Well, again, Melvin, I really wanted to thank you for your time. I think it's fantastic how you're looking at it like this. And I think more and more people listening, it'll hopefully help them to elevate maybe their game if they're a business, or if someone is looking to get into the security industry, it'll elevate their mindset so they can be better prepared to add value to when they walk in the door and meet an organization such as yourself.
Man, this has been amazing. We've been missing each other for a while. I appreciate you for being persistent and not being mad with me. But and we love what you guys are doing too. And I know the synergy is there. And it's so crazy that I was supposed to be in Toronto. I was just in Detroit, and I flew home last night. But I was supposed to be in Toronto, and things kind of changed for me. But when I come up there, we definitely have a date, my friend. We'll sit down and break bread together, and then we'll also have some time to talk about this industry and what we can do to make it better.
Melvin, I love it, man. And again, thank you for your time. I know you've been terribly busy just juggling things around. So I want to thank you for that. And I cannot wait for everyone to listen to this.
Yes, sir. And your logo is dope, man. You got me want to do fine. I like that.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Melvin Key, thank you, buddy. Have a great day, man.
Thanks, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Melvin. Have a great one, buddy.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.